Unlike the last team preview, I am far more excited to talk about the Dallas Cowboys, and not because I'm a fan. All right, I'm a Giants fan, and it's not because I hate the Eagles, because I hate the Cowboys too. But I really do think that the Cowboys have some legitimate potential this season, and I think we're underrating them a little bit heading into the season. Now they still have plenty to figure out, plenty to prove. We'll get to all these things, but America's team, there's a lot of pressure on the Dallas Cowboys, right? And we have to first of all look at last season, but look at it very briefly, in my opinion, right? Because Mike McCarthy, it's not a surprise at all to me that he's not there anymore as the Cowboys coach. I think if Aaron Rodgers in his prime at Green Bay has a different coach, and maybe, like let's say he started with a LaFleur type, Matt LaFleur type, I think they probably win more Super Bowls. That wasn't the case, right? Mike McCarthy, just kind of a laissez-faire. I think he's got fortunate in his career. Absolutely didn't do anything to improve or operationalize the talent on the Dallas roster. I'm not surprised he's gone. Now, Brian Schottenheimer, we don't know much about him, right? New coach. This is new administration. We know that he comes from a legacy football family. I don't think it could get worse. And from what I've seen, I don't hate anything I'm seeing, right? He's kind of laying into the players sometimes. We're at least seeing that in camp and in the media or what the players are talking about. I think that's a good thing for the Dallas Cowboys, a team that's kind of been. I wouldn't say you would consider them a very disciplined team. There's always somebody with some kind of character issue and like on and off the field problems. Um, Schottenheimer brings a little more of a stern, old school style. Again, comes from that lineage of a football family. So I think it can only get better. And when you have a season in 2024 that was without Dak Prescott, I know a lot of people have a lot of things to say about Dak, and a lot of it isn't positive. I have a lot of positive things to say about Dak. I think he's a top 10 quarterback for sure. He was a former MVP candidate for a reason. He has poise out there. He's a good leader. And yeah, they haven't won the big game in the playoffs. Who has, right? The Chiefs, the Bengals, the Bills, kind of, the Eagles, the 49ers. Not many teams, what, 5, 6 teams the past few seasons. So the Cowboys are just one of many, but that doesn't mean that they can't have a good season, and it doesn't mean that they can't be a threat to win the NFC East and maybe even the NFC. Now, personally, I don't think they're going to win the NFC conference, but I'm saying we should treat them more like what we've experienced in seasons past. I think they have a better administration now, and of course, Dak Prescott is back. Let's get to it. Along with Brian Schottenheimer, he brings in Clayton Adams for offensive coordinator. Also comes from a really good background, and he solved the offensive line problems for Arizona the last few seasons. Arizona, one of the best run offenses in the NFL. So I like that for Dallas. I don't think Dallas needs a lot of help in the passing game because I absolutely love that they brought in George Pickett. The combination of CeeDee Lamb and George Pickett, I think, is going to be absolutely lethal with Dak Prescott behind center. Prescott is a timing quarterback. He has a big arm when he wants to. But when he has guys open, he's really, really dangerous. And this offensive line, for the most part, they added Tyler Booker, first round draft pick from Alabama at right guard. I think that's a great pick, a great draft overall. Just like depth on defense they added, et cetera. We'll get more to that. But their offensive line, Tyler Guyton still needs to prove some things, had a bad year last season, but obviously that was just a bad situation for the Cowboys. And I don't hate their running back room as much as other people too. I know Javonte Williams, sort of capped out there in Denver. I don't know if he has a bright future in the NFL, but this would be the spot, right, to get motivated again, to have some good bigs in front of you, offensive line there in Dallas that's been good for many years. Miles Sanders getting up there now, but he can still turn the wheels. It's a good kind of 1-2 punch between like a power runner and a speed runner, Miles Sanders. And again, Dak is going to have a lot of options, right? So this is an offense, and we might see. Last year there was a lot of overs for the Cowboys. I'm trying to find my stat here. They were 11-6 to the over last season, and that was without Dak Prescott. Now I think there's some signs that their defense could be better, but I think we're going to see again a lot of overs for this team. But I like what they brought in offensively. Again, the running back room I don't think is great. I think they're going to rely on the pass game more, like they always have, right? But they've been effective when they've done that. It's a passing league, and I think there's a lot to be excited about between George Pickens and CeeDee Lamb alone. That kind of tandem, we see it, Cincinnati and Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow is different. He's built different for sure. But that combination of T. Higgins and Jamar Chase is almost unstoppable. You add a third or fourth guy in there that's formidable, and it's really unstoppable. And the Cowboys have that too, right? They have a great tight end. So offensively, Cowboys are in a good spot. Stay healthy, Dak. On defense, again, last year, kind of tough to consider a lot of it because they were playing from behind so often. It gets really tough when you're out there on the field all the time. They won't be on the field quite as much this season. They did well on third down conversions and sack rate. They're actually second in the NFL in sack rate. A lot of that is Micah Parsons, and I know there's a controversy right now going on with him and Jerry Jones. That's not great. I think they'll retain him. I don't think he's going anywhere. I think he's too important to the franchise. Like, there are stats out there of when Micah Parsons is on the field and when he's not. It's a stark difference. What they did in the offseason, though, might help. Even if they don't have Micah Parsons, could help reinforce some of their more shallow parts of their front seven. I'll get to that in a second. But again, just going over last season a little bit, their defense devolved really across the board, especially against the run. They were 32nd in the red zone. So again, probably a product of just being on the field too much. At least that has something to do with it. But opponents scored on 75% of their attempts, so that's not good, right? They have to shore that up. Allowed 7.9 yards per pass and 27.5 points per game. That's both 31st in the NFL. I believe only the Panthers are worse. So the Panthers have to be worse, right? Because they had the historically bad defense. But I love this spot for Matt Eberflus, the new defensive coordinator now for the Cowboys. He comes over from Chicago. It's a revenge angle and story. And again, just like Dennis Allen, who went up to Chicago from New Orleans, that's what you want for a guy like that, right? I think Eberflus has some head coaching acumen, but he's a better coordinator. He's going to feel like it's a step down, but it's also perhaps something that he enjoys more, right? He could just solely focus on defense. They brought over Dante Fowler. That's a great signing. Certainly going to add to their pass rush. They were second in sack rate last year for a reason. This defensive line has a ton of young studs that they re-signed. I think they're one of the deeper defensive lines in the NFL. Just a lot of talent in their front seven. So while we could still see them allowing too many big plays because their secondary to me is a big question mark, the linebacking crew a question mark. Last season they allowed 68.16% pass completion, which was 27th in the NFL, so not good. I do think that their front seven is much better now. They have more depth. And I like Eberflus as a guy who can kind of bring the heat, bring the legitimacy. Like, we know he can coach a defense. That's why he became the head coach for the Bears. We thought he was going to turn that around there. I think they had even more problems offensively. But, again, I like this situation for Eberflus. I like what they did in the offseason and reinforcing their front seven. Now, their schedule gets easier after week one. They face Philly, right? They're at Philly week one. That's not going to be easy. They're 7-point underdogs. They probably should be, although I lean Dallas right now. I think it's going to be a closer game than people think. But after week one, they got the Giants, Bears, Packers, Jets, Panthers, Commanders, not easy anymore. Broncos, not easy. Arizona, and Vegas. So I give them 5 wins there. If Dak stays healthy, between the Giants, Bears, Jets, Panthers, Cardinals, and Raiders, I think they can win 5 out of 6 of those games. Now, maybe they beat Green Bay. Maybe they beat Washington. Maybe they beat Denver. Like, we'll see what a flow they're in at that point. We'll see if Micah Parsons is there. We'll see if everybody's healthy, right? But if they can get 5 wins in that middle part of their season, they finish with KC, Detroit, Minnesota, the Chargers, and Washington. It's very tough at the end. But to eclipse their win total, which is 8.5, they would just need 4 more wins. Again, they face the Giants again, right? That probably a win. I'm a Giants fan. I mean, it's just how it's been against the Cowboys the past few years. The past like 10 years. But, you know, along with the over 11-6 to the over last season, I think that's going to be a recurring theme again for the Dallas Cowboys this year. I think their defense is better, but can it stop potent offenses? No. So especially against good offenses, I think we're going to see a lot of 50-plus point games. But if they're able to get after the quarterback at all, then I think their offense and Dak Prescott is going to be able to put up points, and they can stay in a lot of these games. I think they're going to be a much better team against the spread. 8.5, I lean to the over, again, mostly because of their high upside and in the passing game on both sides, right? The NFL is still, well, I don't know if it was in the past. It wasn't in the past. Now it is still and remains and will continue to remain a passing league, right? So if you can pass the ball effectively, if you can stop the pass on the other side, big TBD for their secondary, but we know their front seven can get it done pressuring the quarterback. This is a team who has real potential. The Eagles gave away a lot defensively. It's going to be interesting to see how many points are put up. It's still week one. It's still an NFC East division game, but I think there could be a lot of points in week one as well. You can see I'm thinking through all these look ahead bets right now. But I lean to the over on their 8.5. I give them a power rating of 73 with some real potential to get into at least the lower 80s and maybe become, one of the top teams in the NFC once again. Let's not sleep on Dak Prescott. Let's not sleep on that tandem that they have a wide receiver now. And now they have a real ball coach as a defensive coordinator too. And it just feels like there's like a rejuvenation going on in Dallas. I know Jerry Jones is always making things controversial, but at the end of the day, these are professionals who want to win. They have a great leader in Dak Prescott. And man, if they could keep Micah Parsons, this team becomes a little spooky. And if I'm the Commanders, if I'm the Eagles, forget the Giants. But I would not sleep on this team this season. Do they win a Super Bowl? Probably not. But Dallas Cowboys, look out, lean to their over 8.5 wins, and I think they're a postseason threat.